As I start with everybody, Samantha, what brought you to the patio?
Well, I guess once I saw you start doing it and having the conversations, it brought me back to like when I messaged you recently, and I wanted to reach out just to say, hey, I appreciate what you're doing, and then I saw where we spoke. Was that almost 10 years ago?
July 14th. As a matter of fact, I want to read that.
Yeah.
I'm going to read it.
So way back when Ferguson happened, and I reached out to you about
2014.
taking care of yourself and being careful out there and whatever, and it was like, wow, we've kind of had this rapport for a while, and not even like, I mean, we went to school together forever. I was friends with your sister. That was our closest relationship. So I was like, man, I'd love to come sit out here with you and talk about it because we've never had like a face-to-face. It's always Facebook message.
Yeah. But still, though, okay. So to that end, I guess maybe let's go back to because I don't want to read this. Okay, I want to read this.
Yeah.
I really want to know what prompted you to send this because to your own admission and mine too, like we weren't ever really best of friends. We didn't hang out. We never dated, like we never, you were a year older, like we weren't in the same circles, you know what I mean? Like we truly didn't have the same network. And so this is from August 16th, 2014.
Oh my gosh.
I was going to post this in your status under the comments, but I didn't want a long rebuttal from anyone, so I'm just sending it to you direct. I've had many thoughts on this issue as my mom lives in STL and has to drive through Ferguson daily to work. It's a terrible situation, but nothing will change in the long run. Sad, but true. Anywho, my comment was as follows. Does your mom still live there?
No.
Okay. So here's your comment. Because they aren't arresting anyone at this point, they are letting them do exactly as you said, tear down their own community. So I guess there's some context behind this.
Right.
I posted, but I don't know what that was, but we'll still read your comment. They are letting them do exactly as you said, tear down their own community because in the mind of the police, they could care less about that community, and that's exactly why an unarmed man was shot there. The more that is destroyed and the more ish that happens that gives them cause to act in a violent manner towards the people in the community is fine by them because it makes them look better in the end. The peaceful people that have tried to stop the looting are the ones that should be reported on, but in a white media with a white police force, this is all you're going to see until it's over. It's unfortunate, but it's the reality of this entire situation. The police are going to let it play out from here on out to make the community look worse so the focus shifts. My opinion may not have been wanted or needed, LOL, but so be it.
That's funny. It's so true though. Like
it's
still true.
It's still true.
It's so applicable. Like that was, I guarantee your post was about the riots that were happening and the way it was being covered in the media because I was a media major. I focused a lot on that in college. And so I always tell people if you want the most like accurate information, pick 3 news channels: Fox News, CBS, and then maybe CNN. Because one's going to be far right, one's going to be far left, one's going to be right in the middle. It's like the stories, you know, like there's the truth. You have one story, this story, and the truth is somewhere in the middle.
Yep.
It's the same way with the media and the news coverage. Like they can pick how they want to portray it. And I think with that was before, I mean, I was coaching at the time, so I wasn't allowed to really be vocal about my opinions. And
you were
stuff.
coaching where at that time?
2014, I was at Tennessee State.
Okay, and which is a black school, all black school.
It
HBCU.
is. Yes, it is. And
I mean, you couldn't be vocal at HBCU.
It was weird because so like my boss was very like adamant about what you post and what you put out there. Like he's a very status quo person. You know, we're in a sport, softball. I mean, it's a white sport generally. Even so, even though I was at HBCU, 50 to 60% of my team was white.
Was it? Really?
Yeah, and it's maybe shifted a little bit more since then, but you know, just as a coach and as a public figure, we weren't allowed to. I was under, since college really, we had very strict guidelines on what you can post online. And so anything that you start saying online that could prompt any kind of like viral moment or whatever, which is more happens now. I mean, like one time on Twitter I was out recruiting and the whole softball team had on a face mask, including the outfield. They had those protective face masks. And I tweeted, like, I will never recruit anybody that wears a face mask. It was just my opinion. 3 days later, I had an email from someone that wrote for a magazine in a newspaper, wanted to interview me about it for a story, and I was like, oh.
A face mask?
Like, so softball, you know, when we played, we didn't really all wear face masks. Like, now they wear them on defense. Like, pitchers wear them, which is, I get that, to protect their face from getting hit by the ball.
Yeah. So
I understand with pitchers, that's become more normal. But whenever I started recruiting right out of college, nobody wore them. So if someone wore them, it either like you had a broken nose or something, whatever. But this one team, I still remember, the outfielders had on these masks. And I'm like, if you can't field it and protect your face from the outfield, what are we doing here?
I got you. Okay.
So that kind of goes back to like any type of like political stance or whatever. We weren't really allowed to speak on it. So I'm sure that's why I sent that to your inbox. But it's funny because it's so applicable now because it's the same exact thing that we've seen since
exact same thing.
Everything that's happened with George Floyd and everything. All you see is whatever destruction. You don't see the 100 cops standing there watching them do it. You know, letting them do it because in their minds, oh, this is what's going to get all the play, and so it's going to look like they're just awful out here. You know, not us just go ahead do what you want. You know? So that's funny.
So if I can, let me ask you a question. So you have a black son. Yeah, his father's black. You look at your son. You might even be like, "Are you sure this is your son?" So I want to ask you something a little personal. Like, what is call it jungle fever, call it whatever, but like, what has been your connection to black culture?
I mean, I would say growing up in sports. Well, so like my first ever boyfriend was black, and it was like 4th grade.
And that's did you go to Shaw?
No, I went to Florence Black.
Okay.
And so, like, to me, it was never anything that mattered to me. Like, I didn't think anything of it. It's just always been, people always ask me that, like, why do you only date black guys? Or why do you always, you know, do this or that? I'm like, why do you only date guys? Or why do you only date girls? Like, it's a preference. It's not like I don't just go out seeking, you know, one.
You don't have blinders on, like, I'm only looking for black guys.
Right. It's just, you like what you like. You know, some people don't like short guys. Some people don't like tall guys. You know, to me, that's the same thing when it comes to color. Not everybody sees it that way, obviously, because I think I've always been different as far as that goes. And I wasn't really made aware that it was an issue until, like, my mom came home one day and she was like, so, because I had written all over my notebook, like, I love so-and-so, whatever. And so she came home, she's like, I found out so-and-so is black. And I was like, yeah. Then that's when that whole first conversation of, like, well, this is not okay, like, whatever, kind of separation thing. And I still didn't quite grasp it.
Wait. Your mom had a conversation with you about it's not okay to date black guys.
Yeah, it kind of started out at that point. And so...
Really? And in elementary school?
Yeah, 4th grade.
Do you remember why? Like, why she was saying
I don't. Like, there were so many, I mean...
You're young.
I was young, so, like, for me, it was still like, okay, she's just maybe upset at having boyfriends, whatever, even though it's 4th grade. I mean, my gosh, what were we doing? Hang out at the playground? You know, whatever.
Yeah.
And then as I progressed and got older, you know, like, it's just always been I don't know, just a preference, not like anything against any other race. It's just, you know, I've dated white guys, I've dated Hispanic guys, whatever. It just so happens that the majority of the people see the black guys that I've dated and they tend to target that as a thing. And, which is weird, but whatever. But all throughout school, you know, even into middle school, it was always like, and this is not okay type of thing. And sometimes, you know, you tell someone don't press the red button, they go press the red button. And I tell parents all the time, if your child, because, you know, I coach young athletes now, like, if they're into something, you know, try to encourage it. It's not hurting anybody. Like, let them fill it out. They'll figure things out for themselves. But if you tell them adamantly, like, this is not something you should do, they're going to wonder, well, why should I be doing that?
Right. And
it pushes them further into it. And not that I would have ever changed anyway, because I've always been a very, like, strong-minded person. But between the dating aspect and then, you know, I get to high school, and Mesquite High School is very diverse, like where I went from a volleyball team where there's one black girl on it to the basketball team where there's one white girl on it, you know, and then softball where it's like 50-50. So it's just like, you learn all kinds of stuff. You know, like basketball season, a lot of times I was the only white girl on the court, like with both teams, you know, so you learn a lot in the black culture that way. Mainly how to, like, not be a little bitch out there, like, you know, because freshman year, that's all I was.
At freshman year college?
High school.
Oh, high school.
I was on varsity freshman year, and so there was another. I think there were 2 other white girls, maybe, Cassie, whatever. I don't know, but
the majority of the team was black.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. I wouldn't have guessed that at Mesquite.
Yeah. So basketball. So that's what it was. And you look back at the team pictures and all that. Like with volleyball, there was one black girl that played. She was our middle blocker, and then basketball season, I was the only white person that started for the last 2 years. The first couple years, there was another one, but I mean, mainly, like, you know, you get put into that whole thing. And My mom would always joke, I didn't know if I was showing up to see my white daughter or my black daughter, because some days I'd have my hair twisted or like braided because I let them do my hair. Like, who cares? Like, I'm still your daughter.
Yeah.
But, you know, I don't know. And then beyond that, it's just always been, I never, like, would not befriend someone or go hang out with them based off of race or initial impression. Like, I've had friends that go all over the spectrum,
So, Wyatt, let me ask you this. What did it mean whenever you found out, obviously, you're having a baby, it's gonna be black? Did your mom, I guess it's kind of a loaded question, did your mom freak out about that, one? And then, but also, have you kind of had any conversations or even had, like, held space to kind of process, like, if your mom or dad, is your dad involved in your life?
Yeah.
Okay. So your parents, like, have you confronted, like, maybe my parents might just be racist? Like, have you, because it sounds like, you know what I'm saying?
And yeah, I mean, we've had conversations throughout my upbringing about these sorts of things. We've had periods of time where we didn't speak to each other, like, you know, because of certain things. And I always have tried to explain to them. And it finally got to the point, like, with my mom, it's funny, bless her heart, her and my son have the best relationship on the planet. I think their biggest issue when I got pregnant and decided to have a baby was where I was in my life, not the racial aspect of my son, because I think by that point they already realized, like, you know, she's going to do what she wants to do. And we had a couple conversations throughout college with both my parents where it's like, okay, I understand this is your choice, and, you know, we're going to support that. We just want it to be like a good man, whatever. So they finally kind of came around. But I don't know how to say. So parts of my family, like my grandmother, bless her heart, she still uses the N-word, and I'm like, that's not okay to say that.
Is she still alive?
Yes.
She still uses it?
Well, not so much anymore. She has dementia, so it's kind of a hard line to talk about that. I love her to death, but when I first met her, she loves my son to death, and even now she doesn't know who I am, but she knows Landry. And like, she wants to go pick him up from school or whatever, and it's even been, there have been times where she has said the N-word, and she's like, but I don't mean Landry. And I'm like, there's no exception to it, you know? And so that's like, sometimes when people are like, oh, well, this person is good or this person is all right. Well, they're that because they were adopted by a white family or something, so you feel like you're, like, black enough to bring in a black person. You know what I mean? Like, so, like, for her to say, like, the N-word and then say, oh, but not Landry, I love him, it's almost the same as, like, when you have this white privileged family that adopts a black child, and they're like, but my son is black, so I'm not racist. So
I'm absolved from like, anything. There's no way I could be racist.
Yeah. It took me a minute to get around to that point. But that's like, you know, kind of that type of thing. And with my parents and my son, like, I wouldn't change it for the world. They still, I think, have their moments, and they have different, like, issues society-wise, and I think they just exclude him from it. Does that make sense? Like, he's not included in it because he's part of our family. And so that's hard for me too to take in, because I've even told someone, like, he's not, just because he's with me all the time does not make him white. Like, he will walk out of this house, he's gonna be huge, like, he's already, like, the man has never worn a toddler size hat, so like, if he grows into his head fully, like, he's gonna be a big man, like, so he's already gonna have some kind of like target there, you know, and you add this into it. So that's what I try to explain to him, like, you can't just put him under some cover and think that he's going to be okay because he's in this neighborhood or with this group of people.
Or because you're his mom. Or because when he's in the streets, he is going to be seen as a black kid. So you raise a really good point that I've experienced and what I'm trying to, like, educate people who are now coming out to truly seek, and people who are showing up, you know, these conversations and on the phone and everything are reaching out to say, man, I want to listen, I want to learn. Excuse me, especially within work, is I've had to say, like, I'm not different than George Floyd, right? Like, I'm not different than Ahmaud Arbery. I love to run, like, well, maybe love strong, but I like to run. I like to run around the neighborhood, and get a couple miles in, and that could be me. And so I'm like, y'all see me, and I had to tell my team this, which that was a whole frustrating experience in itself, how long it took my company to kind of respond, and my team, my boss, everything. Whole other thing, but when we finally did, like, hold space for just a real dialogue, I was like, y'all see me, and you know me, we hang out, we laugh, I'm silly, you know what I mean, I'm a positive person, glass half full, but like, when I'm not here, my reality as a black man is still very much the same as everyone else's, but like, you don't assign that to me because I don't even think it registers, right? And so I'm having to break down my experiences, you know what I mean? And people are like, what? Like, yes.
And my thing with that is like people that claim that they don't see it or they haven't seen it choose not to see it. Like
don't see it or haven't seen it.
Like the issues with race, like I've seen so many people, I didn't know systemic racism was still an issue. And I'm like, how do you not know unless you choose to not know? So like many of these people work with someone like you and just think, oh, Donovan's just,
he's one of the good, or they might even think
he's so well spoken.
He's one of the good ones. Like even if that's like a subconscious thought,
right? He's educated. He probably lives in like Highland Park. There's no issue. It doesn't matter. You could still go running in Highland Park, and they don't know you live there. And you're right up on the screen with the next person, and they don't ever take that into account. It's like for me in the corporate world, until they see a picture of my son, they don't know, and they assume I'm like them, and if they make comments about racial issues going on or whatever, that I'm just okay with it because I'm white, and then, hello, here's my child. Like you gotta kind of, I don't know, people choose to be blinded to it, and they don't think about it, and I've seen an example of someone, and I get where he's coming from, as a white pastor, and he called up one of his, flock, I don't know, up there. It was one of his black people that went there, and he called him up on stage in this big presentation, and he's like,
you're not a big churchgoer, huh?
I have a strong faith. I don't quite believe in the institutionalized, church thing.
Speak your truth. Speak your truth. Dude.
So he was like, what size shoe do you wear? And he told him what size shoe he wears. So they took his shoes off, and he switched shoes with him. He's like, I'm going to walk in your shoes. And I'm like, this is bullshit. Like, you're walking in his shoes on a stage in the widest part of DFW. Now, put his shoes on, go into, I don't know, come to
Oak Cliff.
Go to Pleasant Grove, put on his shoes. Go get pulled over at 10 p.m. just trying to go to Walgreens or something, and then live his truth. Like, you can't, that's my thing with a lot of what's going on right now, is people are speaking about it and wanting to, like, show their support, but it's almost like it's a show of their shows of support, right? They're not really trying to go, like, you're not going downtown with them and walking in their shoes per se. You're putting on a show and vocalizing, your white guilt instead of actually learning about it. Does that make sense?
It does. But I think I push back on that, because I think anybody that is going to go downtown and risk the coronavirus, come into the Texas heat, like, if you're doing that as a white person, I feel like there is something deeper. Like, that's not for show. You're truly putting yourself, that's just me. I'm not talking about the people that are out there muddying the waters with the looting and the rioting and all that stuff, right? I'm talking about the true people who are out locking arms, standing, holding signs. I think.
And see, that's what I'm saying. Like, this person was not doing that. They held a little, like, a rally, and it was a great. And to speak further on it, like, my boss at my gym that I work at, he spoke there and he did a wonderful job. But it was for George Floyd, and it was put on by a white woman who's a mayor. The only woman of color that spoke was the very first speaker, and all she did was say the prayer, like blessing it. There were 11 speakers, at least 6 of them are white men that were preachers, and they all were like, they all spoke about Ephesians and, asking for forgiveness. I'm like, that's not what this is about. This is not about, asking for forgiveness because we've been colorblind for so long. This is about how can we do better? What can we do? How can we bring awareness? So right now you're preaching to everybody out here, you need to go repent for your, your sins of being colorblind to what's going on, instead of saying, hey, all of you on stage that are part of this, that this actually impacts, what can we do to help you? You know? And that's where I say that's where they put on the shoes and switch shoes. It's like, I'm walking in your shoes, and it was supposed to be this big moment or whatever. And it's like, go really walk in his shoes. Like, don't just sit up here in front of a bunch of white people and say, oh, I walk in your shoes. Now I'm all of a sudden this big race warrior.
So I'm a part of this group of work called Christians at Work. They used to have a different name, but they changed it. So because it was political. So anyway, last week it just hit me out of the blue. I was like, I have not heard from anyone in this group. So every meeting that we have, when we all were, assembling for a mid-year national sales meeting, we always did a Devo with, Christian, and it, different faiths or whatever, but, basically you believe in God, you believe in anything, you can come, kind of thing. It's just open. So I've been a part of this for some time, and my job has not handled this thing, in my opinion, very well. They're very slow, kind of tone deaf, but excuse me, they're trying. But I realized I got an invite to this Bible study, this virtual Bible study from this Christians at Work group, and I was just like, how the hell are y'all, like, what? Where have you been this past month? Like,
right.
You can hold space for a Bible study in the middle of the week, but like, you won't touch or say anything about Black Lives Matter. Like, you won't even. So I was like, okay, before I jump to conclusions, let me look back to my email, because I've honestly, my mind has not been on work, and it's not been very connected, right? Like, I'm somewhere else.
Yeah.
And so I looked back through, and I just made sure I looked at all the communications, and I did see that there was an email that went out, and it had like a PDF that came from somewhere else about like George Floyd and how Christians should, you know what I mean? Like, so I was like, okay, so I guess they like kind of talked about it, but still, like, there was no, I just didn't feel an intentionality, and I'm like, this is the problem with, you know, with this is the problem, like, in the world with, it just keep, there's so many layers. As Christians, like, yo, why are we not out? And when I say we, I really mean y'all. Like, why are y'all not out to, like, on the forefront of this, reaching out to your Black brothers and sisters, and getting in front of this, and saying, like, we hear you, we you know, what can we do? How can we show up? There was none of that. And so it bothered me. So I sent an email, and I had some trepidation because I didn't want to do it. But I felt like, Samantha, I'd be a hypocrite. I would be a hypocrite if I didn't, because I am here sitting on this patio encouraging everybody, you have a voice, show up, dive in, speak up. And so for me to hold on to that would have been hypocritical. So I sent the email. So long story short, we had a call with the leadership of this group, and they want to plan a call around it. And I sent the bullet points I want to talk about, like, I want to talk about my experience as a Black man who's been a part of multiple white churches. Do I think the church is the answer to this? No. Like, it's like, and it seemed kind of loaded. I could tell, like, they were kind of like, oh gosh, like, is this going to be a bad, it's not a bad session, it's not this, but we got to enter into the truth. And so, I even on this call, so I saw this thing, I don't know if you saw that I posted it, but somebody posted about, it was Luke 15, the 99, and the 100 sheep, 99, one gets lost. We've all heard the parable, and Jesus goes after the one sheep, right? And he was like, if you can't say Black Lives Matter, then you need to, as a Christian, you need to open up the book and read this passage. Did the 99 lives matter? Of course they did. But they weren't the ones in trouble.
They had each other, and they were...
And so he went after the one that was in trouble. And so that's what I brought that up. And I was like, why still, even right now, I feel like y'all are having a hard time saying Black Lives Matter. And I'm only talking to 6 people on this call, right? And so I was like, you don't know how powerful, how disarming, how supportive it will feel to just hear you say that. And it made me, I was driving home, and it made me tear up. Like, and I was just like, man, and I took a minute, recollected, and then at the end when I got here, and right before, you know, we closed the call, somebody, it was like, Donovan, I just want you to know we hear you, we love you, Black Lives Matter. Like, somebody said it, and it got me. Like, it got me, because it's like, man,
it's hard for people, and that's what's hard for me. Like, I've reached out to a few people, or quite a few people. I have a lot of male friends, African American, all over the country that I've reached out to.
You can say black.
Well,
you got a black son, you're good.
Like, and I've just texted them, you know, and I haven't heard back from them immediately or anything like that, but I'm like, how are you doing? Are you doing okay? Like, you handling this all right? Like, I've been trying to get together like a video type thing, working with one of our former classmates, Christian, Anoha. Love Christian. So we talked about doing some stuff, but it's like I've had like kickback on trying to get it together from people that are like, no, I'm not interested in doing this right now, because I'm processing everything. So I've just been like, that's okay. Like, if you need anything, I'm here, whatever. And some of them I still haven't heard from. Some of them have come back and said, hey, you know, like, I was just in a space. And so I don't know why it's hard for people to see that or to like reach out, you know. I've never had that problem, but I don't know if it's like people think that just because you text someone or call someone and say, hey, I see you, I love you, I support you, that they're going to maybe screenshot it, post it on Facebook, the whole world's going to know that you think Black Lives Matter. Is that going to bother you? Like, I don't know. If you don't say it publicly, no one's forcing people to say it publicly, but like if you have those close friends, you know, reach out. I've seen friendships get destroyed, you know, through this, and it shows true colors when people can't even reach out and say, hey, I see you, like, are you okay? And I'm glad they did that for you. Like, I mean, it's good that someone did it. My work that I was at, they just act like nothing's going on. As far as like coronavirus and life in general, I'm like, you guys just act like there's nothing going on other than, you know, they joked about some kind of protest in Allen. They're like, well, they're protesting in Allen? They're like, well, they were just down the sidewalk. You know, they weren't looting or anything. And I was like, guys, that's not part of the conversation.
Yeah, you had to get the hell up out of there.
Yeah, so it didn't hurt my feelings to leave, but you know, for you to have gone to those lengths to get that, I'm glad that you did, and you said something, because so many people don't, and so many people will just keep continuing to be a part of the flock to like keep their job or whatever, instead of like, your lives are more important than money.
Come on.
You know?
Come on.
And that's why, as politicians now that we're opening up the economy and more people are getting all this stuff, it's all about money. You're literally sacrificing the people that voted for you to make money. And it's the same thing here. You know, so many people won't speak up at work because they might lose their job. Okay. Yep. If you're gonna lose your job because you speak up, then you don't need to be working there. I've walked into an all-black church. I've been the only white person in there. You know, it's like, oh hey, who are you? Kind of thing. But they don't attempt to do that either.
Yeah.
So.
And even to that experience, like what I was telling this Christians at Work group, part of the black experience is somebody who I've lived multiple different states, cities, traveled, right? And there was a time in my life where I was visiting a lot of different churches on my own personal journey, you know what I mean? And a lot of those I grew up in a black church. And so a lot of those were non-denoms and mostly white. And I had the experience of always feeling overwhelmed. Right? Like people almost would pounce on me. And I started to think, like, damn, are they doing this because they really want me to feel welcome? Or they're reaching so hard because they know there's not a lot of black people here? Like, so in my mind, I can never just walk into this church, to any church, and just not have to worry or think through all of those different things, right? And that's that's what I'm trying to tell people about, like, the black experience. And I shared that on the call, and half of them were just like, wow, I never thought about that. Like, of course you didn't. And I hate that I have to think about that. But at the same side, swing the pendulum the other way. If nobody says a word, that's a problem too, right? So there's like this space that we have to try to figure out. Like, you don't have to go, I don't need 20 people pouncing on me when I walk into this church, right?
Just treat me like you would treat anybody else who walks in. Like, that's the whole point of it. I mean, it's like, sometimes you walk into a place and it's like you're being recruited, and you're like, yo, I just showed up for, like, to grab some water, like, I don't know. You know what I mean? But it's like, everyone's like, they want you to feel welcome so you can come there, but then when you get there, it's just like the recruiting process too. Is it going to be like when they tried to get you there? Once you're a member, are you always going to be this, like, welcoming, or are you just going to say, well, we welcomed you with open arms, I don't know what the problem is now?
I mean, it got to the point where I would look up, if I was visiting a new church, I would look up when it started and make sure I went like 20 minutes late. You know, just you know what I mean? Which I hated, but that's just, you know, like, that's part of like the damage and the trauma of the experience. You know? And
this is nowhere near, like, in any way a comparison to being a black man in America, but being a single mom with a black son walking into a church, especially around, you know, Rockwall area or whatever. It's like, they see me and they're all welcoming, like, here's your stuff, whatever, and then, oh, you know, there's my son going into his class or whatever. There are single moms groups, but only at certain campuses, which I found to be, like, you know, I don't think it's a coincidence that the only single moms group is in Mesquite versus, like, Rockwall or Forney or wherever. And I'm like, okay, so I can't go to the same type of class I would want to go to out here. For what reason or whatever. And, you know, showing up to, like, birthday parties, you know, for other kids in my son's school, like, you know, where's his dad, where's your husband? I get that all the time, like just leave me alone about it, you know. And so I can't even imagine on what level it feels like in your shoes, you know, because that's uncomfortable for me. But it's like I said, I'm not gonna get, you know, chased down by 3 white men and shot on the street when I'm jogging by myself, you know. So it's in no way a comparison, but it's, you know,
but still, that's your truth,
and
that's your experience, and that is eye-opening for me, because the reason for these conversations is about entering into a whole new level of empathy, right? Like, you share, like, you just opened my eyes to an experience of not only a single mother, but a single mother with a black son, And so I'm very curious too, if you could tell me how old is he?
He's 4.5.
4.5. Whose responsibility, and I'm sure maybe it's shared, but have you thought about how you're going to talk to him about talking to the police, about how he carries himself?
Yeah.
Are you saying that's his dad's job? Like talk to me about
I've
that.
talked to his dad before about figuring out a way to do it together, because I don't want it to be, because his dad is in a very similar space, as you are, like trying to cope with everything that's going on and trying not to be, angry. You want to be angry and you want to fight back and you want to do all those things, and I completely understand that, and I'm like, I want him to understand that he is a black man and that this stuff is going to happen to him, but I don't want him to go out and fear everybody that tries to help him. So like that's where we're at a crossroads of trying to figure out how exactly to like bring it to him. Like not everybody that pulls you over is going to try to like hurt you, but it's always a possibility that you have to be prepared for. So as many times as you want to say, you can just be polite, just put your hands up, blah blah blah. Well, we've seen time and time again where that doesn't make a difference. So you can even be following the law as a normal citizen and it doesn't make a difference. So as a mom, I want to say, don't let anybody mess with you, like fight back. But then in the back of my mind, it's like, well, how do you say fight back but don't? Like, it's just a very tough way to figure it out. And he's still at an age where he doesn't quite see, a lot of the differences, like his best friends are his best friends at school, he loves his dad, whatever. He's got his cousins in Florida. I try to make sure he gets the best of both, like, sides of his family. Like he's down there in church with them every Sunday when he's there. All black church, loves the music, plays the piano with them. He's got his cousins, and then he's got his cousins here. Like, he doesn't see anything different other than the cooking, apparently, because now he won't eat my biscuits, but he'll eat his grandma's biscuits in Florida. So
do you make them homemade?
No.
That's why.
So I know exactly. So I told her, I said, can you please send me that recipe, because ever since he started making those biscuits with you, he won't eat my biscuits. And she just starts laughing.
That's funny.
Like that's probably the biggest difference, I think, is the food, like going from one to the other, because it's just different. I don't know how to have that conversation with him, because I personally have never been in that experience. I have been, obviously experienced racism on different levels, in interracial relationships, and what it looks like to go into a public place and not be waited on because the person you're sitting with is black, But I don't understand what it's like to get pulled over and fear for my life. I only think about how can I talk my way out of this as a white woman and smile and flirt, I'm not thinking like if I reach too fast, they might shoot me, So it's hard to have that conversation with him, and I'm not sure. He's very smart and he's a very observant young man, so I know he'll get it. It's just how to present it to him in a way that it will make sense to him. Because he'll be getting to that age, where leaving school, maybe he walks home or whatever, and you think, maybe he's too young, but he's not. Samira Rice was 12,
Did you see the video that was pretty popular a couple weeks ago with that kid playing basketball? It by itself. It was in his driveway. Dad it was security camera or something. But it's a live stream, so his dad was watching. His dad was at work. This kid is out dribbling the ball, so a Jeep is parked in the driveway, and he's about 6 feet from this Jeep. He's dribbling, he's just minding his own business. He stops, picks up the ball, and you see him kind of peep, and then he goes right up behind the Jeep. Like, you know how Jeeps have the tire on the back of the Jeep? Right. And he goes right up and like literally hides behind this tire. And then you see a police car drive by. Oh. And then he like
looks out,
comes out, and he sees it. Then he goes back to dribbling, shooting hoops. So his dad posted it and was like, "What do you even say to this?" And he said he asked him like, "Why, son? Like, why did you hide?" And the son said, "Because they killed George Floyd."
That's terrible. And how old was he?
I don't know. I think he was. He couldn't have been any more. I want to say he was like 8 to 10.
Yeah, and see, that's my thing. Is like I want him to feel comfortable if help does show up, like to call for help if you need help. But it's almost to where like if you're in a situation like that and you need help immediately, call me or call your dad. And it's sad to say don't call the police first, but it depends on the situation. Like you can't say call the police. You're the one black kid and you're out there with five white guys, you know, like that pastor that was beat in, was it Georgia? Did you see this story? Okay, so he's a landlord who owns this building.
A white landlord, or?
The man was black, and the 5 people that eventually got arrested were white. So what happened was he came out, they were trying to put stuff, I'm not sure the exact dynamics of how they ended up getting into an altercation, but he came out and basically told them they couldn't do what they were doing by putting stuff in the dumpster. And they were like, well, we're going to do it anyway, and they started having racial slurs or whatever. So he calls the police. They attacked him. He got arrested.
This is recent?
Yes. He got arrested for possession of a weapon. Oh. And I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm going to come out with my weapon. If, like, I own the building. I think it was in Georgia. I feel like it was in Georgia.
No, like what weapon?
So he had a pistol, like, you know, a perfectly legal weapon. But he got arrested, and then they finally released him, and then arrested the 5 people that, you know, verbally assaulted him and all that. So right there is a point where I'm like, if that's my son in a younger situation, and you call the police for help, they show up and they automatically see you as a threat, and they arrest you, how does that give you any faith in to call for help again, right?
Yep.
But I also know very good police officers and people that are in that, and it's like, I'm not in any way anti-police. I'm just anti, like, hate. Like, I don't get it at all. And it's hard. I've asked multiple people, how are you going to have this conversation with your son? Like, black women that have black sons, you know,
yeah.
and they're trying to get guidance on that,
yep.
you know, and I've even offered my boss at my gym, I said, hey, I sent him a link. I said, hey, when the day comes that I need to have this talk with him, can you help me with that? Because, like, I don't know, you know.
Wow.
So from your experience, whatever, and he said, yeah, sure, I got you.
Wow.
You know, so.
Wow. Yeah, you know, even somebody asked me, I think, this question too, similarly. How are y'all going to plan for that? And, or how is Victoria, I think, you know, around that? So she's half Hispanic, half white, right? Mm-hmm. She didn't realize, she'll tell you, like, she didn't realize the burden and the pain and the plight of black people, and even myself, until literally the past couple months. Yeah. With everything, because like her being so close and seeing this the visceral reactions I've had, and my emotions being like that, showed her right. She just never really, you know. And then seeing my mom's posts about how many times I've been pulled over, all the talks, so she gets it. She knows that it's not even a question of if, it's just a matter of when and how we're gonna have to talk to our kids, because just like your son, when they see, Lord willing, we have kids, when they see them, they will be black. Right. You know, girl, guy, they will be black.
It does not matter.
And it doesn't matter.
And I've had someone say to me, well, he's gonna be seen as white because he's raised by white people. I'm sorry, have you looked at my child? I've been asked if he's adopted more times than I can count.
I'm telling you,
and like, first of all, that's not only personally offensive. I would never, even if I can clearly tell, like, if I'm walking around with you as my son, I would never say, hey, is he adopted? Like, I had someone stop in the middle of my neighborhood and ask me that, and I'm like,
serious?
Yes.
Do most of those people who ask you if he's adopted, are most of them white?
They're all white, yes. They've all been white.
So doesn't that in itself speak to what gives you, like, that to me is white privilege. What very gives you the right to even think that that's okay?
Yeah, or to be like, well, and then they justify it, right? So it's the same justification as like, well, I have a black friend, so I'm not racist. You know, this one experience, which I can't just, like, spare me that shit. I ain't trying to hear that. But I was in a security line at the airport. He was standing there with me, and she even kind of tried to pull me aside a little bit, and was asking, she's like, well, and after I said, no, he's my son, she's like, well, I only asked that because, you know, I have a family member that's wanting to adopt, and we're looking for, like, an agency or whatever. I'm like, is that the original reason? Like, is that okay justification? No, it's still very invasive.
It's invasive, and it's still an assumption.
So, yeah, had he had brown hair and blue eyes, you wouldn't have thought a thing about it, even if he didn't look anything like me.
I've learned a new term this week that I like, that it actually came on a work town hall: unconscious bias. So we used to joke about it, and I won't joke about it anymore, but a couple guys I work with, black guys, one of them, we're very close in age. I think he's a year or maybe 2 older, no more than that. We're about the same height, we're about the same build, you know. So many people, we joked about it, would come up to me and be like, Pierre, what's up? Or go to him, hey Donovan, like, and we're two totally different people.
Right.
I had pink eye at our national sales meeting in the beginning of this year, I think it was, and he said that somebody came up to him and was like, man, Donovan, that pink eye sure has cleared up. You know, I'm glad you're doing better. And he just like, yeah, thanks, right?
Right.
And so we always would joke about this, and we at the meetings be like, bro, how many times? You know, yeah, it's Wednesday, okay, how many times? You know, but it's not funny anymore because that is that true unconscious bias.
Yeah.
You don't take the time to even like, you don't see any of my humanity.
Right.
Like that, you can't separate me from another black person. So when you made that statement, like all black people look alike, yeah, that's that like pervasive joke or whatever. But the truth is, you're grouping these individuals into this group because you don't see their humanity. You just see them as them.
Right.
Right? And so you don't need to differentiate them. It's like,
so now from here on out, you and Pierre should be like, no, I'm Donovan, no, I'm Pierre, and make them see the ignorance in their
100%.
statements. Like, if you just see my hand,
100%.
you just see my hand and you assume, oh, there's only two of them, that must be Pierre or Donovan. Like, you know what I mean?
I've been in conversations, Sam, like, especially like at the bar when you're hanging out at night, midway through, about 15 minutes into the conversation, I realized this dude thinks I'm Pierre. And then I've said it, like there are a couple times I've called people, I'll be like, you know I'm not Pierre, right? And they just, I'm so sorry, and they're just backpedaling. I'm so, oh my God, you know what I mean? It's just like, what do I say? Like, it's okay?
Yeah.
It's not okay.
No, it's not in any way. Like, you completely don't know who I am. You just assume, like, you just see my skin and you think I'm that person. Like,
you just lump us all.
Like, it's a 50-50 chance.
And there's only 8 of us here. Out of like 300-400, there's not a lot. Like,
right. Come on now. That should make it easier to decipher. Does that make you feel like decipher?
Yeah.
Or you go say all 700 white people's names.
Right.
I don't know.
There's
That
8.
doesn't make sense.
I can't. Going back to our early in our conversation, it's hypocritical of me to allow this to continue, right? And I can't, so I can no longer, the mantle is on me, like I can no longer joke about being the token black guy. I can no longer joke about being the only one, you know? It's not funny, or because I'm black. I did that all the time with my friends, like growing up, the ski, all that, like, oh, because I'm black, bro, like, it's not funny anymore, right? And I was talking to my friend from, he's the gym owner that I was working out at before COVID. He's Hispanic. And we were both like just so passionate. We were like fired up. And if you heard our conversation, you would think we were mad at each other, but we were just both so fired up. We were going in, he was like, bro, like, you don't understand, like I'll be like, sometimes I'll be like, man, you're some fucking Mexican dog. And he's like talking to his Mexican friends. And he's like, I can't do this. Like, I cannot do that. He's 6'3" or 6'2.5". He's tall for a Mexican guy, especially, you know, I mean, stereotypically, I know, but he'll tell you that.
No,
though. Like most, you know, he's tatted. He's super successful, multiple businesses. He's a physical therapist. He owns a gym. He has all these other things. Like, he's married, a couple kids, but I mean, my man's successful, so he's like, he gets it though. Like, yo, he knows if he goes on road trips with the fam, like he has the same mindset that I do. Okay, let's check the gas tank. We can't stop in the middle, you know what I mean? Like some
I just had that conversation. It's a difference if I'm traveling with my son or if I'm traveling by myself. I know exactly where I can stop because I drive to meet his dad in Louisiana. His dad lives in Florida. There is literally, if it's not a Love's or a Pilot, I won't stop. But if it's not also like a bigger city, we won't stop either. And so, and this is thanks to one of my college teammates. Her name is Delana. She's black and she's from Murfreesboro, Tennessee. We were on a road trip and she was like, oh no, we can't stop here. I'm like, what do you mean? And she was like, there are places throughout the South that you don't stop if you're black. And I think that was the first time, because travel wise I never thought about that, but that was the first time my eyes were open to that point. And so now, you know, before when I would travel by myself, I'd stop anywhere, it still matter, you know, wholesome white girl, whatever, they don't care. But then you go with my son, there was one time where I had to change his diaper and it was in the middle of nowhere in Louisiana. I mean, it's Louisiana. Like, so we went in one place and I felt so uncomfortable. I was like, we'll never go back in there. As he got older, I've had him pee on the side of the road instead of going into the same gas station. So it's like understanding that, like, it's crazy that you still have to do that in 2020, but I mean, it's so important, and it's important for people to understand, like, that may live in those towns that aren't that type of way, that like There's a reason only white people stop there, you know?
Crazy. So I want to pivot a little bit and ask you, what did George Floyd's death, how did that impact you? What was your reaction? Tell me about that.
You know, when I first heard about it, I was like, here we go again, initially. I think the only moment that I was proud of the situation is I was watching the local news and they showed the video in its entirety on live, like, newscast at a primetime hour. And I was like, holy shit, they've never done this before. Like, literally, anytime these things have happened, you get the story, you don't get the video.
You get a still picture maybe?
Yeah, you're like, this is the picture of George Floyd, this is the picture of the officer, this is what happened, boom, next story. They put it up there and showed it, and I was standing in my living room, and I'm getting chills right now, because I was standing in my living room with my mom, my grandmother, and my son, but he wasn't paying attention, and they were watching it, and I was like, this is what needs to happen. And I was like, you can't be proud of that moment, but the fact that they finally played it, and I'm like, this is why this one is going to be different, because they felt so compelled to actually play the video for everyone, that they see that it's different. So it's heartbreaking, of course. Like, it's devastating in the time frame of which it happened. Like you said, Ahmaud Arbery had just happened, Breonna Taylor had just happened, and it's like, are we ever going to learn? And it's sad that it still happens. And then of course you get the people, well, there's got to be more to the story, we're not getting the full story. You got the whole 9-minute video right there.
What else story
do you need? Whether he was doing one thing or the other, this is never okay, you know. And
have in any of this, and you said your son's 4. 4 years ago was what, 2016, so that your son was born after Mike Brown. But in any of this, there's been multiple, right, during this time period. Have you ever, like, thought about your son in this?
Yes. When was it? The Tulsa shooting, and please forgive me. Oh, Terrence Crutcher, that he was shot in the middle of the road by the white female cop in Tulsa. Do you remember that incident? I mean, like you said, there's been so many. I remember a Facebook post that I did right after that, and I actually got unfriended by some family members because they thought I was anti-police because I posted it. But he's the one that got pulled over. He's the one. The fact that you have to give this the narrative. He was outside of his car. He was walking, had his hands up, but he was like walking. They said he was walking towards them. I don't remember like the specifics around it, but the woman that shot him, her name is Shelby something, who now, by the way, has a job in how to de-escalate those situations.
Oh my
So let me just.
She shot and killed him?
Yes. So he was shot and killed in the middle of the road, and I remember posting after it, and it was kind of a lighthearted post, but not. So my dog is black and white with spots, and I was like, everyone had been going like all crazy on Facebook or whatever, and I was like, man, I look at my dog, and it's so nice to know that she's black and white, and she'll never have to worry about something like whatever. But then my son was asleep, and I had a picture of him that I posted, and it was a lot deeper about, you know, fearing for his future. You know, he was maybe 6 months old at that time, and like to think that he was going home from school or wherever he was coming from, and like out of his car, and this shit happens to him. Like, I've been aware that I would have a black son, you know, obviously, but stuff that's happened as he's grown, and it just like keeps magnifying. I never thought it would still be such a big point of contention, you know. I don't know. It's really tough to say, like, with him. Yeah, look up Terrence Crutcher. I mean, you'll remember it when you see it. And there's video of that, too, you know, him on the road, and she shoots him, and
oh my God.
I don't know. It's like, and I guess my fear is the first one that he watches and understands what happens. I'll just sit and talk with him about why and how it happened. You know, like, that's where I'm at now. Like, you read all the stories. He sees the news, but he's playing with Play-Doh or watching Ninjago or something. He doesn't pay attention. But one day he's going to look up and say, oh, what's all this going on, Mommy? You gotta explain it to him. And,